very good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. We will once again extend to each and every one of you our deep appreciation in allowing this particular transmission and communication to take place in this way, which affords us the opportunity to expand our own consciousness as well as sharing with you some ideas that can help to expand your own. Let us begin. We understand that we are having this discussion, this get-together, as you say in your language, this day of your time, for the purpose of talking about the subject of money. Now, yours is not the only planet that has it, but it is one of the few we have encountered that does. But that's all right. It is unique, it is valid, and since we understand it is one of the ways your planet works, we will talk about it in direct terms. Now, the idea to understand, first and foremost, is this. Do not mean to disappoint you, but I will not be telling you how to win the lottery. That is first and foremost. I will tell you this. You have the ability to win the lottery, but you must understand that it has to be keyed to the strongest excitement within you and has to be an all-consuming focus or an absolute knowingness for you to allow yourself to fall into the appropriate slot where that can synchronistically represent itself to you as one form of abundance on your planet. It can be done, but that's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss the idea of how you can attract more money into your life by whatever methodology you so desire. Now, yes, as a very brief recap, yes, it is for the most part based on the idea of following your joy. Absolutely, because that is fundamentally who you are. Your excitement, your vibration is who you are. By acting on your joy, it is far more likely that you're going to put yourself in the proper place and time to see the opportunities that can allow you to act upon them to bring you more money in your life. Please do remember, and we will get into this in another way, in a new way in a moment, but please do remember that abundance really is only the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. It can be money. It doesn't have to be money, but it can be money, and because that is the subject of this discussion, we will focus on that. Now, what we are really saying here, in terms of giving you more of an opportunity to attract more money in your life, is we are helping in this discussion to uncover and to clarify your relationship to money and abundance. Your relationship to money and abundance. Because that is all it takes. That's all that's required to allow money to come pouring in rivers, in waterfalls into your life. Because the universe is abundant. Your planet has all the money it needs for every single one of the individuals that we are talking to now in this gathering, and many, 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 many more to become what you call millionaires. More than enough for that. Remember, one of the reasons that is so is that not everyone needs or wants to really be a millionaire. So the idea is that for everyone that is truly excited and attracted to that experience, there is enough for you to become a multi-millionaire. There is. After all, you create the idea of money. You can create what you need. Not saying that you should run out and print it. We understand your laws frown on that. But you can create what you need. You can attract what you need in your life regarding as much money as you have ever dreamed of. One of the things that we have said that does go hand in hand with this, of course, is the degree of your activity, the degree to which you put out that you exist on a level that is commensurate with receiving a lot of money in return. For individuals who are simply limiting themselves in certain ways are actually giving off a message that they don't really want or need that much money. But by expanding your expression of self, you give off more of a signal to reality, to the mirror of the universe, that money can be reflected in the degree of expansion you are willing to provide, you are willing to exhibit. Now, let us talk about three primary ideas. This will be new approaches for you regarding the concept of money. And remember, what we are doing is we are attempting to shake up, dislodge, deconstruct then clarify and reconstruct and relodge your relationship to money. Because you don't have to do anything but relate to money differently than you do in order for money to come flooding into your life. But the fact that many of you don't have a clear relationship to money is the thing that prevents that money from coming in. So, let us begin with the first of the three ideas. Now, to some degree, I've talked about this concept before, and the concept that we will now present to you in a new way is the concept of definitions, and specifically definitions that contradict one another. Remember, your beliefs, your definitions, are what create your reality. Now, one of the things we have said is the idea that you are raised with a number of conflicting ideas about money. One of the ones we have given you already is that when you are growing up, most people, especially in your culture, will say, in order to be successful, in order to be looked at as successful, in order to be considered successful, you must make a lot of money. And again, in the next breath, in the other ear, they say, but money is the root of all evil. That means if you become successful, you are going to be evil. You really do take these concepts to heart. You really do. And when you do, you create this conflict within yourself, this battle, this war within yourselves that doesn't allow you to move ahead. And it sours your relationship to money. And it builds tension and stress within your body because you are literally tearing yourself apart. I want to be successful. I want a lot of money. I will be the devil himself if I become rich. What am I to do? What am I to do? As we have discussed, the idea is to get in touch, of course, with those definitions and clarify them so that you understand that these are not things you must believe in. That you don't have to connect the idea of being a bad person, of being evil, so to speak, with the idea of having money. You don't have to believe that absolute power corrupts absolutely, because it only does when you absolutely believe that it does. That's the point. You need to find your definitions and weed them out, lay them out clearly, separate them out clearly, disentangle them from one another clearly, so that you can understand what you are dealing with, what you have to work with. What are the tools you have at hand? What are the definitions that give you your relationship to money? An example that was recently provided is the idea that because you have entangled your belief systems up, you can be thinking that you want one thing, and you don't seem to be able to get that one thing, and you can't figure out why you can't get that one thing, until all of a sudden you realize that if you got that one thing, it would mean that you would have to do this other thing that to you is something you don't want to do. And so because it is something you are absolutely 100% against doing in your mind, you will make sure that you prevent yourself from getting that first thing that would give you or force you to do the other thing. When you connect things together that way, then you will never be able to allow yourself to see clearly what your relationships are, because it will all be caught up and wound up in a bunch of different cross-conflicting belief systems. Let's now look at one we have not discussed before that on the surface may not seem to be very profound, but again, remember, all these things sink into you, and when they do, even though the original idea may on the surface not seem to have a lot of power, when you apply the same principles unconsciously to other areas of your life, they can absolutely stop you cold, stop you dead, as you say. Let's look at your idea of your monetary system. Now, when your money, your idea of money, your value for money, the value you have placed on your money, when the value of your money becomes less, you say your money is inflated. What kind of sense does that make? You say that something that gets bigger gets smaller. That something that gets smaller gets bigger. And when it all of a sudden has more value, you say it has deflated. Is it any wonder you are confused? No, not at all. Again, this may seem arbitrary, but stop and think about it. These are the kinds of signals that you have been giving yourselves and have been given to you for years concerning money. There is a very important thing to understand behind this. And that is, you need to look at money in exactly the opposite way you have been trained to look at money. In especially this case, the idea, first of all, of whatever this core value is that you have arbitrarily assigned to the idea of money, that you all agree is the worth of the money. But then once you have done that, you go throwing your own system out of whack, out of kilter, by labeling this value as fluctuating in such a manner that the label is exactly the opposite of what it is doing. Allow yourself to begin right now to reverse that idea. Let's use this example. And I will take you through the exercise now briefly, but understand why we are doing this. Everything we are now going to discuss, in all the examples we will now give you, may on the surface just sound like words, and you may walk out of this seminar, as you call it, afterwards saying, well, all right, I heard a lot of words, and maybe they made sense, and maybe they did not. But what is actually going on here is this. The things that we are sharing with all of you now on this subject are specifically designed to get under your skin, into your sub and unconscious selves, and dislodge, to start to break up these locked-in, deep-seated definitions and belief systems about money that you've been carrying with you through your whole life. So when you walk away, you may think, well, that was nice, those were words. You will actually walk away beginning the process of breaking down all of these ideas. It is like we are now giving you, tossing into your brain, a little time-released acid capsule, meaning the acid that dissolves, not the drug. The idea being that that capsule will begin to break down, and as it does, it will begin to seek out and dissolve all of those conflicting, contrary ideas and beliefs, and will start to unravel the tapestry, so you will begin to examine them one at a time. All of a sudden you'll find yourself beginning in your dreams or in your waking state to start seeing one at a time those individual precision definitions that have been wrapped up with other ones. You'll start to break down your ideas of your relationship to money. That's what it is that we are doing here. We're rattling your cage, rattling your consciousness, and allowing you to deconstruct who you have been so that you can go through the process of reconstructing who you are and thus reconstruct the relationship to money that you have had into something new, into something abundant, into something spendable, tradable, on the open market, on your planet. And that will be you. You are the commodity that needs to be traded, that needs to be spent, that needs to be exchanged. You are the thing of value. You. Before we go on with this exercise, I will tell you that in time, not right away, but in time, your planet's quote-unquote monetary system will actually finally be based, and this is what it is heading toward, be based on the skills and abilities people have to offer. And there will be, not a government, but an organizational body that will put people together based on the skills they have to share with the people that need those skills. And synchronistically, everyone will find exactly who they need to provide what they need, and in turn will provide to others what they need based on who they are. But until that day, I understand that you want big fat wallets. And so let us proceed. because that is what this subject is about. So, with regard to this idea of inflation, deflation, let us look at the idea now in your minds. You can close your eyes, you can open your eyes, it doesn't matter. But if you will, see the idea of what you call one of your dollar bills, and see it getting bigger, inflating, 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 in the literal sense of the word, so that it is bigger, 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 and along with it, and congruently, it is more powerful. You have more spending power in that dollar because you're making it bigger. Bigger, 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 bigger. Now, stop it there at a certain size, whatever that size may be. Or if it's stopped by itself, that's fine. Now, let it shrink. Don't worry, it's all right. You can always inflate it again. There's more than enough air. Let it shrink. Down, 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 down. Tiny, tiny, tiny little itty-bitty piece of paper. So small, maybe it would just blow away in the wind like a speck. Little tiny dollar. No value, or almost no value at all. Can't even grab it, let alone spend it. Can't convince anyone it's a dollar because it's so small you can't see it. Now, let it come back to what you consider it to be normal size. Now, look at it carefully. Don't adjust it. Did it come back slightly smaller than normal size and stop, or slightly bigger than normal size and then stop, or did it come back exactly the size you have always seen it? There are ways to tell. Allow yourself in your own mind to understand by taking a good look at it, by having in your imagination someone else walk in and put a dollar bill down next to it as to whether it wound up a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. This will tell you the beginnings of what value you consider money in general to have. Whether it is really worth more or worth less than what you call the going rate. And this keys strongly into your relationship to money and your relationship to yourself as to whether you believe you are more or less than the going rate. Whether you have the ability to be a commodity worth exchanging, or whether you fall a little short. Now understand, please, this is important. Nothing that we are saying here today is about becoming a materialistic, egocentric, money-grubbing person. We are not talking about the idea of forming a fixation on material goods, but it is all right for you to attract material comfort in your life. There is a balance. You all know that. I don't really have to say it, but it's too late. I already did. So relax and let go of any worries any of you might have had about the idea that, oh, we're focusing so strongly today on the idea of getting a lot of money, but I don't want to be seen as a money-grubbing miser. I don't want to be seen as someone who hoards their money. You really are, I will assume, simply looking for that primary balance point that allows you to feel the freedom you know you deserve to feel. Yes? 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 Yes. All right. Just want to make sure you're awake. Now, let us go on to item number 2. And here is a very, very powerful, powerful, powerful equation. Very powerful. You don't have to believe me. No matter how many times I say it, when you learn to use this tool, you will see it's very powerful. Why? Because it is the essential structure of how you attract money. And as all essential structures, it is built on paradox. Most of you are brought up with different ideas that, taken all together, allow you to create in your mind and in your heart a particular cumulative, reactive, emotional effect. this particular cumulative, reactive, emotional effect is generally as follows. If I don't have enough, or what I think ought to be enough money, then there's nothing I can do. I am sunk. I am stuck. I have nothing to work with. This is the general reaction most of you have to what you typically call a low level of income, or an almost non-existent level of income. You feel stuck. You feel incapable of really moving ahead. What I am going to tell you now is that this is the most powerful state you can be in to generate money. Not just for what you might typically think, oh, because I'm at the bottom of the barrel now, all I have to do is move up because up is the only way I can move. Yes, that's true, but that's not the point and not the mechanism. Here's the idea. Pay attention very, very carefully. It is simple, but it might take you a moment to understand how to use it and how to apply it. But when you do, or are you going to take off like a rocket? Oh, all right, you're going to take off like a hyperdrive spaceship. Now, creation is nothing but abundance. In, let's just put it colloquially, creation's infinite wisdom, you were created with exactly what you need to create more of whatever you need. Let's go over that one more time. When you find yourself standing in a room, outside, wherever it may be, and you feel, let's just say, oh, destitute, if that is how you feel. Let's just take that example. Nothing like extreme. To get your attention. You must understand the first part of this principle, very important in this paradox, in this power, is you still have at that moment every single thing you need. Every single thing you need. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you an example that is a metaphor in a sense, but realistic. Let us say you fancy yourself an artist. Now you're standing there. You have nothing. You think. What does it take to begin? What does it take to begin to be an artist? To draw something? Well, you say, well, I can't pay for the fancy paints. I can't pay for the fancy pens. I can just barely afford a pencil. Well, I know this is going to sound strange, but you know, people on your planet, when they didn't have fancy paints, when they didn't have fancy pens, when they didn't have pencils, used sticks. And they burnt the sticks to create charcoal, and they drew on cave walls. Some of the most beautiful art, you still think so today. Those cave paintings are extremely sophisticated, very beautiful, and compare with almost anything in any of your museums. And you know this. The point is they knew they had what they needed at hand. This is something you have forgotten because you have been surrounded with the idea that in order to be who you are, the only way you can do that is to have the fancy things. This is a notion I would urge you to get over now. Right now. It doesn't serve you. You don't need the fancy things. Don't be disappointed. We're getting to the point where you can have all the fancy things. But you must understand this is a two-part principle. It's a two-part principle. And it goes something like this. I'll just give you the formula right now. And you'll catch on, but we'll go over it again. Are you paying attention? Are you sure? Doesn't sound like all of you are.